Welcome to another episode of The Brand Called You, a video and podcast show that brings you leadership lessons, knowledge, experience, and wisdom from hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Today, it is my privilege to have someone who is a very accomplished PhD in yoga and geriatric medicine, Dr. N.K. Manjunath. Dr. Manjunath, welcome to the show.
Namaste, and thank you very much for inviting me to your show. And it's my privilege to be part of your show. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Dr. Manjunath is the director of the S. Vyasa University. S. Vyasa stands for the Swami Vivekananda Yoga Anusandhan Samsthan. He's, as I mentioned, a PhD in yoga and geriatric medicine, and he's also the editor of the International Journal of Yoga. So, sir, tell me, what would you say are three key milestones in your life or your career?
Yeah, well, it's always important, though we keep certain milestones and progress towards them. Or after a long journey of your life, you look back and say that probably there are a couple of reasons why I'm here today. Mm-hmm. So I probably belong to the second category. I look back and say that probably these three important milestones have probably played an important role in my life. So I was always somebody who was interested in engineering and doing something innovative. But the first milestone I would say is actually doing a professional program in yoga and naturopathy. So, which I never thought of in my life. Probably I'll be becoming a naturopathy physician. Mm-hmm. So the Bachelor in Naturopathy and Yogic Sciences as a basic medical undergraduation, and then entering into research and completing a PhD in yoga and geriatric medicine is the first milestone according to me. Mm-hmm. So as I mentioned, though interest was into engineering, I have completed a medical degree. I never thought of actually research and PhD. But when joined Vivekananda Yoga Anusandhan Samsthana and published my first ever research paper in the International Journal of Neuroscience, I felt that there is so much to explore in traditional medicine of India and to reach it to the world. And then I had the wonderful experience of working with elderly people for my doctoral work. Hence, 2005 was an year of accomplishment, which I always remember. And the second thing is definitely my research accomplishment. So I look at establishing a central research facility called Anveshana Research Laboratories as a Center for Advanced Research in Integrative Medicine, inaugurated in 2014 by Union Health Minister Harshvardhanji, is the second milestone because that was a dream project for me. Having worked in research for quite some time, I always wanted a central research facility where anybody in the country and abroad can come and work and come and explore their research and have a freedom to use instrumentation, which otherwise is difficult to get access to. So certainly establishing this research facility with a wonderful vision for at least another 25 years is the second milestone, because this is where who's who of India and abroad have visited, and this lab has also facilitated many collaborations with premier international universities like Massachusetts Institute of Technology in Boston to the College of Medicine in London to Shanghai University of Sports in China. Mm-hmm. So more than 200 doctoral students are using these facilities today, and we have published more than 650 research papers, which amounts to 12% of world literature on yoga. Certainly, this laboratory and working as the director is the second milestone. Okay. If you ask me the third milestone, this is where a whole range of gamut of outreach comes into my mind. Okay. So actually the vision has been given by Dr. Nagendra, the founder of S. Vyasa University. Mm-hmm. But the biggest milestone I would consider is the recent development, which is establishment of a yoga university in California in USA. Okay. I'm sure this is going to open the doors for the whole world whereby whatever we have done in India, we can do it in abroad. So, in brief, I can say these three are the important
Very
milestones.
nice, very nice. So let's move to the area of your specialization, which is yoga. Tell me first about the kind of work that the S. Vyasa University is doing.
Yes, Vyasa stands for Swami Vivekananda Yoga Anusandhan Samsthana. Anusandhana stands for research. So, yes, Vyasa has got a very strong basis into research. So, this is the first ever full-fledged yoga university in the world, actually started in 2002. Dr. H.R. Nagendra, who is inspired by the teachings of Swami Vivekananda with the vision of making yoga socially relevant science by bringing the best of the East with the best of the West, has initiated this whole movement. Hence, evidence-based approach is the backbone of S. Vyasa, along with yoga-based higher education, therapy services as its main focused activities. S. Vyasa offers various certificate programs, diploma, bachelor's, master's, PhD program in yoga. Also runs a naturopathy medical program, MD in yoga, MBA in healthcare management, etc. in the education sector. It has the distinction of starting the first ever yoga therapy hospital. Of course, hospital, we call it as Arogya Dama. This is the place where you regain your health. And state-of-the-art research facility with molecular bioscience, cognitive neuroscience, psychophysiology, psychology, and bioenergy laboratories all in one place. So, yes, Vyasa has set many trends for the world to follow with respect to education. We follow an amazing Gurukula style of education, and we actually have established several centers for integrative medicine in premier institutions like All India Institute of Medical Sciences in Delhi to various other institutions outside India. And S. Vyasa has taken yoga and yoga research to the global platform through its publications, because the standard set by Dr. Nagendra is very high for research in the university. The first thing is the publication which came in British Medical Journal in 1986. So that's the kind of publications in high impact journals which the founders have created as the path to follow. And today, S. Vyasa has little more than 2,000 students studying on a residential basis in the campus, and little more than 8,000 students studying through different modes. And it has actually produced little more than 75 PhDs and hundreds of master's students. So it's a wonderful story, S. Vyasa, to follow. And many other universities have taken the whole lead from this amazing journey of S. Vyasa.
Wonderful. So, yoga, Dr. Manjunath, has been, practiced for generations, for thousands of years, but it is becoming much more relevant today. My first question to you, for our listeners and viewers, is why is yoga important to all of us?
That's very wonderful question, because everybody feels that we have to do yoga, and everybody talks about yoga is important. Honestly speaking, this question bothers every individual at some point of time. I would say that yoga is an amazing ancient Indian science and art of living. It has something to offer to each and every individual, irrespective of age, gender, geographical location, etc. So we are living in the world of stress and lifestyle disorders, as all of us are very much familiar with today.
Correct.
So stress and lifestyle issues on one side, high ambitious and artificial living on the other side is really putting an individual to a testing period. So hence the philosophy and practice of yoga is very important to each one of us. We have a small little issue. Either we follow only practice part of yoga, or we follow the philosophy part of yoga. So if you follow philosophy, you are looked upon like a saintly person. If you follow only the practice person, practice part of it, you are looked upon like a fitness freak. So the standard prescription given to us by Sage Patanjali is the Ashtanga Yoga as the system of systematic process of attaining the best benefits of yoga. And we need to incorporate yoga as part of our lifestyle and make it as a self-discipline to get the best benefits. So why we need to actually practice yoga? It's to really shape your body and mind in the simplest form. Why we need the various forms of yoga, be it Raja Yoga, Gnana Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Karma Yoga, because not one yoga suits every individual.
Right.
Why we have so many styles of yoga today in the world? You attach the word yoga to any one specific word, there is a yoga today. Why such a thing has come? It is because of the popularity of yoga.
Right.
So certainly the health benefits are the primary focus, but there is much more than just the health benefits what people can actually get from the practice.
Well said. So let's talk now a little bit about the areas of your research. And when I was reading about you, I read 3 areas, which is the psychophysiology of yoga, the neural correlates of meditation, and aging and rehabilitation. You've already just spoken a little bit about yoga, but so let's spend a little time now on the other 2, which is on meditation and rehabilitation.
Well, today meditation has become a parallel discipline to yoga in the world actually. So people call yoga and meditation. In the Eastern wisdom, your meditation is part of yoga. Why meditation has become a separate discipline is that there are too many scientific studies conducted in the West on meditation, and they have identified various simpler methods which can be actually taught to any individual without any major requirement. So otherwise in yoga, what initially we started talking was, you need these eligibility. I mean, you have to fulfill these eligibility criteria, then only you can get into it. But meditation, very much popularized in the West initially by Maharshi Mahesh Yogi through transcendental meditation. And later today, it is well known with mindfulness as a method. Mindfulness is a wonderful English terminology according to me, which otherwise in Eastern wisdom we always refer to being aware of.
Right.
So it is not like an exercise. You know what you are doing. So
Correct.
Being mindful in whatever activity you do is actually what yoga is all about.
Correct. Is this also something similar to self-awareness?
Yeah, it is definitely self-awareness. We have done a lot of scientific studies on meditation, and world over, a little more than 5,000 publications are there on meditation itself.
Okay.
The gist of it says that meditation is an amazing tool which facilitates you bring your attention to an activity what is needed by you.
Okay.
So the attentional processes in the brain are actually channelized in a way. And number 2, what it does is inhibition in the brain. We talk of inhibition with respect to, imagine I'm sitting in this room, I want to do meditation. There is noise on one side, there is light, too many lights on the other side, and there are distracting objects all surrounding me. So my mind gets carried away and my thought processes are going to be pulled across these different attracting things. So meditation, what it does is simply puts off all these lights. Okay. So number 2, it actually creates a kind of process of an ability in you to inhibit the unnecessary information coming into your brain. What we call it as the brainstem, which actually acts as the major filter for all that information going into your brain. Meditation, lots of studies have demonstrated that at the brainstem level, you establish an ability to voluntarily control all these involuntary functions.
Okay.
And second beauty is, there are a couple of studies demonstrating that not just the functions of the body and the brain can be improved, but also the structure of the body and brain. There's a study published in Neuro Report by Sarah Laser suggesting that the cortical thickness in the brain can increase if you do meditation and yoga. that has huge application, like
Right.
aging related neurodegeneration is a major issue today. And if probably the regular practice of meditation can prevent this thinning of the brain thickness, then probably we can prevent lots of issues. So meditation has lots to offer.
Very interesting. So I'd like to now move to another area that you are quite passionate about, which is integrative medicine. And you actually believe that integrative medicine is the future of healthcare. For our viewers and our listeners, and even for me, what is integrative medicine and how will it help us?
In a simplest way to define integrative medicine, it is bringing the best of various systems of medicine for an excellent clinical outcome. And a patient comes to you expecting a relief from a problem. So imagine what I know I am going to tell the patient. If there are 3 or 4 things which are good for the same condition, then there is a confusion in the mind of a patient. So to whom to go to? Okay, should I go to an Ayurveda doctor? Should I go to a homeopath? Or an allopath who promises to remove the problem totally by a surgical intervention?
Okay.
So, but at the same time, when patients have gone through these different set of physicians, when they have not found a major solution, so then they get confused. Where is the solution? So this concept of integrative medicine has evolved over 100 years now, where the best of certain systems of medicine, let us say allopathy has something wonderful to offer. So we never say that any one system is superior to another system or any system is inferior to another system. So you complement each other. Integrative medicine is to complement the beneficial effects of each other.
Right.
And integrative medicine, why I call it as the future of healthcare, is because the problems what we are facing today, health problems, are multi-dimensional. These are not limited to any infections, not limited to any physical health problems. These are always connected to your mind, stress, and probably much beyond that. So to get a solution for a multidimensional approach, multidimensional problem, you need a multidimensional solution, approach. So integrative medicine, bringing the best of these systems, are going to provide. We have done a decent amount of scientific work on it to create this combination of different systems for providing better health benefits. And I am sure this will take the whole course of healthcare into a new dimension.
Correct. So, it's often been said, and someone was telling me recently, that our body has so much power to be able to heal itself that if we leave it alone, it will be able to fix most of the problems. What are your thoughts?
You said it right. You said everything by saying that. What we call it as innate healing. Okay. Our problem is we meddle with our body too much.
Correct.
We need to intervene whenever it is needed, just to facilitate the body to actually take this course of healing.
Correct.
Many times we suppress the symptoms rather than attending to the cause of the health issue. So suppression actually leads to major other problems. So we always say that if an individual gets a fever, you give him paracetamol, the fever might reduce, but it comes back. It remains for 3 days, and after that, you feel that 3 days of paracetamol has relieved me from fever. Instead of that, of course, you monitor fever. It should not exceed certain extreme levels. With monitoring, even if you just do some kind of a fasting, you apply some cold pack, and you take care of your any other issues arising up. Still it will become all right in 3 days. So the beauty is body has that capacity. Even COVID is a best example to take today, is that so many people, though they are getting exposed, they are not becoming symptomatic. They might have virus in them. The innate immune mechanisms in their body is really protecting them, and it applies to any healthcare condition. So naturopathy and all Indian systems of medicine believe in it very strongly. Nature heals, and physicians act as kind of supporting roles. So we actually need to just empower our body to heal. So I agree, totally agree with you.
Wonderful. So, Dr. Manjunath, I have time now for just maybe 2 or 3 questions for you personally. Right? You've done so much in life. You're successful, achieving things that you had set out to do. My first question to you is, what does success mean to Dr. Manjunath?
In my view, whatever I have done in my life so far, I have counted something as successful when I have made an impact in somebody's life positively. Okay, so that's success for me. When you can make an impact positively in somebody's life, that is the success. Because somebody doesn't mean any human being for that matter. Whatever you come across in nature, if you can make an impact for a positive outcome, that's success for me.
Okay. And my next follow-up question is that, despite having done so much, you keep wanting to do more and more. And therefore, my question to you is, where do you draw your inspiration from?
Well, it's true. I mean, the biggest inspiration comes to us from our greatest personalities. One such personality I always get that inspiration from is Swami Vivekananda, because he has said that arise, awake, stop not till the goal is reached. Okay, I don't know where that goal is, so probably that energy is needed, and we have to keep running to do something and contribute something. And second, certainly I look upon the founder of our university, Dr. H.R. Nagendra. He is close to 80 years, and there is no way I can match to his speed and his energy.
Okay.
Whenever I work with him, I travel with him across the world, I feel that, come on, my age, I feel tired sometimes, and look at him. And that's the greatest inspiration what anybody can get. Wow. And also greatest personalities who have shown that humbleness in spite of achievements. That's what is needed for all of us. Little bit of achievement takes us to kind of too much of an attitude.
Correct.
So I look upon like Sir M. Vishweshwaraya as one of the person whose birthplace is very close to my birthplace. So right from my childhood, I kept on visiting to his place. And Dr. Abdul Kalam, beyond any doubt. So some of these people actually drive me very strongly to do more and more.
Wonderful. So I've got time for only one quick question, and I'd request for a quick answer on this one. And I know the question, you can't give a quick answer, but there are so many young people who want to follow down the path and come into the S. Vyasa University and become yogic practitioners, learn more, practice more, etc. What would your advice be to a young individual starting off on their journey?
I tell most of our students coming to S. Vyasa University, one thing, that this is the only profession where you are paid to take care of your health.
Wow.
Well, okay, nowhere there is no other profession. You conduct as many yoga sessions, somebody pays for it, and you are improving yourself and you are maintaining your calm. I think that's the lesson I would like to repeatedly tell and remind the youngsters that professionally yoga has lots to offer, not only for yourself, and you can contribute to a nation's growth and making this world a wonderful, healthy place to live.
Wonderful. Dr. Manjunath, thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure and an honor to speak to you, and I wish you and the S. Vyasa University lots of success.
Thank you very much, and I am privileged to be sharing some of my thoughts with you, and I'm sure it's going to be of some good inspiration to somebody else in future, because I have looked upon many of your talk shows and I have drawn inspiration from these talk shows. Thank you very much.
Thank you again.
Thank you for listening to the Brand Called You videocast and podcast, a platform that brings you knowledge, experience, and wisdom of hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Do visit our website www.tbcy.in to watch and listen to the stories of many more individuals. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search for the Brand Called You.